What's good, everybody? I just want to quickly make a quick disclaimer. Usually, obviously, we're on a red chair, but today, we had to switch locations. But nevertheless, the party must go on, the conversations must go on, and we've got another special guest for you guys today. So, we're going to let her introduce herself and deliver you guys another, very insightful and hopefully educational conversation. So, yeah, who have we got in a chair today?
My name is Leah Brown, FRSA, and I am a lawyer mediator, an entrepreneur, and really a change maker.
A change maker. I love that word, a change maker. When did you get to a point in your life when you realized that you could make a change in whichever way?
I think I've always been passionate about making changes, and I think I'm the kind of person who, doesn't make New Year's resolutions because today is as good a day as any to make a change. So I've always been somebody who likes to rile against the status quo, and I'm not a rule breaker, but I just think sometimes when things don't make sense, why don't we just do them differently? So I'm an advocate for having difficult conversations. I like to help people find freedom from the harms that they've experienced, and help them move forwards from those experiences so that they don't hold them captive or hold them back. And I feel very privileged to be able to meet people from all walks of life in what I do, and to get to speak on various stages and to get to write about really interesting topics. So that's me.
At this point in your life, what do you think about the world, just in general, because you live within it?
It's a sobering thought. I think anything that's going on in our world at the moment, whether that's politically, whether that's the fires in Los Angeles, whether that's the global conflict that we're seeing where people are incredibly divided, but obviously being forcibly removed from their homes or losing their lives. I mean, it's unnecessary. I think the word I would use is that it's all unnecessary, and there is so much opportunity for political leaders to make better decisions, and you see that in the power of communities riling together to support one another, to provide where provision is not possible through traditional means, just so that people can get by. And I think the greatest thing that comes out of adversity is that human spirit, that community, and it's just striking to me that comes to the fore in adversity. And I'm like, we should just live like this anyway, and I think part of globalization is that everybody's become so individualized and I suppose self-interested, but also independent. And I think we've lost that collective need for conversation, for companionship, for that vulnerability with one another, to share our lives and to share what we have. So it's an interesting time to be living, but I think there's great onus on those of us who have so much to advocate for those who have less, but also to inform ourselves on those topics so that we can see what we can do to help improve the situations that we see.
Why do you think humans come together when there's something that's wrong, when there's trouble, rather than getting together when on a normal day, like what you said? Because I've also struggled to understand why. Why does it take a community to get even closer in a time of adversity? Why? Why can we not do it on a normal day? And even do you what are your thoughts on politics? Because for me personally, I gave up on politics, and whenever I have conversations with people, I try to see if someone can kind of convince me, to get back into politics somehow, because I gave up.
Okay, well, two things. People are driven by pride and by fear.
Yeah.
And it's pride that prevents us from asking for help. It's pride that enables us to think that we're better than other people. And it's fear that brings people together, because when you don't know where else to turn, you can't turn within. So you have to look outwards, and you then cling to your neighbor and say, can you walk with me through this because I'm terrified.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you got a diagnosis of cancer, that's probably not something that you're going to keep to yourself. That's something that you want to reach out and process with somebody else who can walk with you through that experience. And in adversity, that's what we need, is somebody to walk with us through those experiences. But I think I'm gonna challenge you because I love politics.
Yeah, go on.
I have
Please do.
always loved politics.
I can't wait for this. You love politics?
I love politics.
Oh my God.
And I think it is worth separating politics from people. As in separating politics from the politicians that represent us.
Okay.
Right? Because politics is about people, right? It's about governing people. It's about governing society and making society function in a way that is well run, that's regulated, that has some kind of functional structure to it. But I think, again, politics has gotten conflated with pride and with fear. And so the challenge in a democratic regime like we have in the United Kingdom is that we all exercise civic participation and we go out and we vote so that we can choose the people who are representing us, who we entrust to make decisions on our behalf as a society. And so I find it challenging when people tell me, I'm so over politics, it's been too much, and, look at everything that's gone wrong, and, how is it ever going to get any better? But disengaging from those conversations and, I suppose, not engaging with the narratives makes it very hard to see the changes that we want to see in the world.
Yeah. Because for me, I like to always keep things simple. I don't like to complicate things.
Life is complicated.
You know what I mean?
People are complicated.
You know what I mean? So this is why I like to like simplify what I'm about to say, yeah? The reason why I gave up on politics is just simply like I always tell everyone, because for years and years and years, it's like, for me anyway, from where I come from, it's like politicians, they say one thing and they do another. You get what I'm saying? And politicians, before they get into offices, I've seen it numerous times when they're running for campaigns, promising. Basically, like, a lot of politicians, let's just make it nice and simple. For me, I feel like over the years, a lot of politicians, they've broken a lot of promises, and a lot of politicians haven't really delivered what they actually promised the people, like that they were gonna do if people voted them in. So for someone like you who loves politics, what would you say about that? Like, they lied to us, numerous times, like empty promises. And now I'm traumatized. Even having this conversation now, I'm thinking,
I can see it in you. You're very stressed.
Yeah, I'm like, I wanted to, even we've got, have you heard of like a mayor, sorry to go off track for a second, have you heard of some guy called David Lammy?
Yes, I interviewed him on the Longest Day podcast.
Like, I'm from Tottenham.
Yes, he's your MP.
He's our MP, and it's like, over the years, I don't even know where to go, but...
Well, let me answer your question.
Of course.
So, one of the reasons that I think we feel so disappointed by politicians is because we expect them to keep promises that were not in their gift to make in the first place. So, for example, the political system is quite complicated, and the way that laws are made and passed and changed is quite complicated. And there are many subjects, and I think you could take one, like the recent assisted dying bill, for example, that recently was put before the House of Commons and the House of Lords. People have a whole range of opinions on whether people should be able to die legally in an assisted manner. And there are many people who will have campaigned on that issue in the past, but they of themselves are not able to bring about a change in the law, right? So there's something about timing, there's something about opportunity, there's something about expectation, there's something about collaboration, there's something about perseverance, right? That's not the first time that this subject has come before the House of Commons for discussion, but it is the first time that it's been brought in this manner. And I think there's something about politics that is exciting, it's dynamic, it's unpredictable. And I completely agree with you that politicians lie, and I completely agree with you that they shouldn't make promises that they can't keep. But I also think that it's not necessarily the politicians' fault that they've been unable to keep those promises. If you look at the way that Westminster turns, it is really like the Wheel of Fortune, and depending on which triangle or square you land on at any given point in time, I have a huge amount of empathy for people trying to get anything done in that place. So I think what I've learned in the last couple of years is that if you want to see change, you've got to be willing to stick with something for a really long time. And I think we as a generation of people have become accustomed to getting things now, right? You want whatever cuisine you want and it will arrive in your door in the next 20 minutes, right? We're not accustomed to waiting anymore. We get Amazon Prime delivered through the doors, sometimes the same day. You know, we can have anything that we want in reach. And I think that's created an impact on politics through technology, through Twitter, through the way that people communicate with one another, that allows people to be engaged and to know what's going on, but to also feel this massive sense of disconnection and powerlessness because you have all that information, but actually, well, what does it mean for me? What does it mean for my community? How do I get to see change?
Yeah. And what are your thoughts on people like me who basically gave up on voting, just in general, like the vote?
But your vote matters.
Leah, I'm not sure, man. I'm not.
Because if everyone who is your friend or your neighbour took the same view, right? So how are you going to have an impact in a democracy if you don't get out and vote?
Because we've been lied to before and we're traumatized and we just got sick of voting and not seeing a change.
Okay, so maybe you don't need to vote. Maybe you need to run.
What do you mean by run? Like go for a run or actually run
for office? Become a local councillor.
Yeah, I've never had this type of conversation about politics. It's interesting though. So if I wanted to go to run for, how do I do that? Like, can anyone do it?
Yes, I mean.
Interesting. I wasn't even aware of that, by the way.
You probably need to choose a party.
Mm-hmm.
And you probably need to start hanging out with people who are part of that party and going knocking on doors and leafleting and campaigning with them. Find out what issues are of importance to local residents, go to town hall meetings, things like that. But you can also find out what causes are really important and see if you can volunteer with some of those charities or get to know some of the local figures who are doing interesting things. Find out what interests you, and maybe it's not becoming a politician, maybe it's becoming an advocate for a very specific issue. But I think part of it is knowing yourself, and we're called to be people who become the change that we want to see in the world. And if you're disillusioned and if you don't feel like you're seeing the type of representation that reflects your values, then it's kind of incumbent on you to step out in faith and say, well, maybe I could shake things up or do things differently. And that's how we eventually see change, is by people with that fire in their belly sticking with it and bringing that in.
Because one of the reasons why I named this platform Reality Team TV, because you see that just the word reality, I just like to just keep it in real life rather than people going off and just talking about things that are kind of like, I don't know, fairy tale or things that don't really exist in real life. So in reality, if somebody was watching this in the real life, and saw you and thought, you know what, she sounds very good, she sounds like she knows what she's talking about, but at the same time, she sounds brainwashed. Because, you've got some people who think politics is already been, like people who get voted to go into positions or whatever, it's like it's already been planned, right? You get what I'm trying to say? Like, for them kind of people who think, she's cool, but she sounds brainwashed because of this and that. You get me? Like, what words would you have for them? Like, what would you have to say to them? Because I'm not gonna lie, if I didn't meet you in real life, and I was probably watching this on YouTube somewhere or something, again, I would probably think the same kind of thing. Like, you know what? She sounds cool, but it just sounds like she's kind of like, for many, many years, for whatever reason, it's like she's been brainwashed. You get me? Again, not in a bad way, or whatever.
I don't think that's bad at all. I think.
Let me let him in,
Yeah. So, do you want me to wait?
Yeah.